Hi everybody, I am Julia Anchorhaven and this is episode 11 in my full disclosure diary. And what I'm starting to do right now is to kind of break into like a beginner's series for people who are just starting to open up to the possibility that they're multidimensional. They may be targeted, you may be a super soldier or a military abductee or an ET conscious contactee or something like that. So on my website I've added a new section which is called Debrief. So you can visit my website anchorhaven.co.uk/debrief, and I have put a video on there which was episode 10 where we kind of introduced this concept of debriefing people who are newly awakened to these concepts. And I put loads of PDFs there as well. I've put free downloadable resources for you. So if you are not sure where to start, please head to my website as a place to start and build off. It's like a signpost for you. I'm going to be sharing some of my personal experiences and some foundational information that I believe will help you. I don't pretend to be an authority on these topics. I'm just going to share with you what I've learned, what I've discovered, and things that I've experienced over the last year or so. And hopefully this will help you kind of put in that basic foundation. But as we start on this journey to uncover what's really happened and who you are multidimensionally in all these other versions of you, alters, aspects, clones, things like that, please know that this is a trauma healing journey. This is not an easy journey. This is not something that you can expect everybody to want to talk to you about. This is a very sometimes private journey as well, because you are delving into trauma that happened to you when you were a child. So I do identify as a military abductee, as an ET abductee, as a super soldier, as a clone echo chain template, basically the orphan black. I do identify as being in military programs like MONARCH, Montauk, Umbrella, Ibis, Paperclip, Mannequin. I do identify as being somebody that was in Dark Fleet, the Nachtwaffen, and Solar Warden, and Kruger, and who knows what else. So I'm just going to share with you some things that have worked for me. So as I'm going through the foundational context of the stuff, I'm going to share with you some of my personal experiences as well. This is absolutely insane, this journey. And of course, some things will resonate and some things will not. And that's perfect. You just take what makes sense to you. Whenever I receive new information, whether it's from an external source who's got documented files like the ACIO, or it's from a psychic or a psionic, or it's just information that's coming to me organically from memories and things like that, I always take 3 to 4 weeks to process this information. And then I'll work with 3 or 4 people in the community to kind of bounce this off and say, does this make sense? Does this make sense? What are you getting off this as well? So I really take my time. So the last 6 to 9 months, I have been going deeper and deeper and deeper into my personal information. And yet some of it, as I say, will not resonate with you, and you'll be thinking, well, that's a load of nonsense. And you know what? That's absolutely fine. I'm only holding on to the information that resonates with me now. But over the last 6 months, I've gone with what I could handle at the time, and I've gone a bit deeper and deeper and deeper. So quite at this point in time, I can say, yeah, there's a lot of what I received from the ACIO, the Advanced Contact Intelligence Organization. There's a lot of what I received in those files that resonate with me. And there's a video that's available on Jessica Ariel Morocco's channel. There's 2 videos. One is me with Jessica, where we're talking more about clones and ET contact and radiation exposure that I had, and then on the other video we go deeper with Peter the Insider and Jessica Morocco, where Peter has access to files. And even though you don't get to see those files, and you don't get to see Peter either because he is kind of the insider, he's in protection, but he reads out certain things for you. So if you are thinking of going to going down that process, I do recommend it. It did open up a lot of things for me, just off Peter's voice as well. So I found it activating, and certain phrases that were used in other videos activated me with memories. So yeah, I would recommend that process. Of course, it's not for everybody, and it's a very interesting experience. I felt quite sick the whole way through because there was a lot of resonance coming in for me. But you go through like all these steps of denial and things like that when you're thinking, how can that possibly make any sense, you know? I also work with people in our community like Sean Bond from Psionic League, and for me, Sean has really high authority to be able to open up this information in your energetic field. So before Sean, nobody saw the SSP, nobody mentioned any clones to me, even though I knew it to be true, and things like that. So I try to have a monthly session with Sean Bond if I can, and the other people I work with in our community is Christy Campbell, CC33. Christy has amazing abilities to kind of build on what you're seeing, what you're saying. So we've sounded things out together, we've kind of brainstormed on things, we've done it all publicly as well. I also work with Soma Ara, somaara.love, the Pleiadian channel. So I have had a lot of good information about past lives come through Soma Ara, especially about Atlantis and things like that, which has been really good for me. And then of course I work with David Purcell, who's my podcast partner, and David is an advanced psionic. He has a lot of memory recall from certain factions of the Supersoldier secret space program, and he also has this ability to really kind of discern straight through the truth and to kind of cut to the chase on things and bring in lots of clarity. So you might have, well, this is what happened to me, and he'll be able to tell you why, when, that kind of thing. So that's really good. And we found that when we work together, our energies and our psionics are amplified, which is brilliant. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about targeting. I'm also going to talk a little bit about clones as well. So I'm going to try and bring in two totally random topics into one video, and I'm doing this to make sure that I get as much out there as possible, because when I start to talk about things, I actively get targeted. On the last video, my throat felt like it was getting closed up, and you could see after a while I'm looking a bit strained. So this information is all available on my website, anchorhaven.co.uk/debrief. Now, if you would like to go deeper, if you want to talk about these things, you can book in for an introduction session with me for like a 15-20 minutes for £10, just to kind of sound things out. We can see, you know, what makes sense in that introduction, and it can be recorded as well. I might be able to just straight away give you some clarity or some tips on, you know, how to get yourself started, get yourself grounded, energy hygiene, that kind of thing. And then if you would like to go deeper off that video, we can then book in with David Purcell and myself to have an empowered session. But you do need to be ready, because David and I have no filter whatsoever. So we're very blunt with the information that might come across. So just know that we need you to be quite stable, quite grounded, quite focused with some questions and that kind of thing before you book in for an empowered session. So the introduction with me is kind of just to see if it would, you know, if it would benefit you at all, and then we can talk about booking in for an empowered session with David and I. Okay, so I'm going to start off. I prepared some articles, and I just want to go through those articles a little bit. So if you see me looking down, I'm just referring to my notes to help me stay focused. Otherwise, I can go off on a tangent. And there's an article on my website which is about MKUltra and targeted individual targeting. So it talks about MKUltra and a little bit about the background. MKUltra kind of originally started around the 1940s, it's thought, under different project names like Bluebird, and they were studies that became gateways into entire systems of trauma-based mind control programming, psychic conditioning, military experimentation on civilians, soldiers and children. And what was found in these projects was it's a lot easier to program a child's mind than it is an adult. So the majority of programming is done on children. So when you start to look into this for yourself, you're going all the way back to when you were a baby. Okay, and that can be quite hard to stomach, quite hard to integrate, knowing that you were traumatized as a baby, to fracture your mind so that alter personalities could come through and they could be programmed and things like that. So when MKUltra was retired, it's thought that other projects continued under different names, new code names, new faces, but with the same agenda. Okay, and this is just some information that I've pulled from different sources, and I've worked with my ChatGPT basically to compile this for me. So of course there's more information out there. You might not agree with all of this, but this is just the foundation level for you to build off. Yeah, so please do your own research. Can't stress that enough. Do your own research and know that this is a healing journey that you are on. Okay, it's great to find out all these things and to identify with being a super soldier or, you know, a targeted individual or whatever, and be able to use those labels, but this is a trauma journey. Okay, so I really can't stress that enough. So other programs and projects that exist under that kind of MKUltra umbrella is MONARCH. So MONARCH, basically they use trauma to fracture the mind to create alters controlled like chess pieces, is what I put here. So when a lot of us, when we were children, we had tests, and I'll come back to that, but an alter personality is kind of separate from your primary personality, but it can still be in your mind, and it can be programmed. Now they can actually take that and put it into a clone, or it could just be part of you that's accessed via codes or sounds or whatever. Okay, then we've got the Project Montauk, known as Project Phoenix, Phoenix 2, and this involved time manipulation, teleportation, and psychic warfare. It was really traumatic. Thousands and thousands of children and adults died in these projects, and because it's time-based, it's still ongoing now. Okay, then I've got here Project Talent. So in America there was the GATE program, or Talented and Gifted Tag program, and basically children at school were given maybe a hearing test or puzzles, and they were checked to see if they had altered personalities that could be used to be programmed, or they could be susceptible to fracturing. So, and trained for telepathy, remote viewing, and off-world missions like this, you know, Supersoldier secret space program. President models. Now I don't know much about this, with the people who were serviced, the program to service the elite, and kind of like honeypots and things like that, or program to get close to political figures. Yeah, so I don't know much about that myself, but I know there's plenty of people out there that I've talked about that. I possibly do have an aspect of me that's in that kind of president model program, and it might have other names as well. So we've got fairy tale and ritual abuse programming, so cruel symbolic systems to anchor obedience and disassociation. So there is a lot of SRA that goes into these programs. You've got the Mothers of Darkness Castle that Christy Campbell talks about, and Penny Bradley touched on at the Full Disclosure conference as well. I know that I am in those kind of programs, but I'm not quite ready to dig deeper into that, so just know that that's something that's there. Then we've got the Manchurian Candidate and Super Soldier programs. So operatives designed for combat, assassination, or galactic assignments, without conscious memory, used as time soldiers, used on and off planet, and things like that. So that I can touch on a little bit further. And we've got Project Atlas. Now, I wasn't aware of this one until quite recently, but Nathan Sizak did a fantastic presentation on the Typical Skeptic podcast, which is available on Rumble, I think. It might be available on his YouTube, not sure. But Project Atlas, now, today is the 8th of September 2025, and there is a huge comet-type thing in orbit or heading to Earth that's called 3I Atlas, okay, which is quite interesting, and it's named that because it was discovered at the Atlas Observatory. But then we've got this Project Atlas, a quieter but devastating layer of control is what is put here. Pulling this from my ChatGPT. Atlas targets individuals across the globe, mapping their neural and energetic signatures like a living database. It's about surveillance, tracking, and influence, ensuring that no awakened soul No experiencer, no potential dissenter can rise without being monitored. So yeah, so watch the video on the Typical Skeptic podcast that Nathan Sizak did about this Atlas monitoring and programming, and it's, you know, he touched on the sleep rooms as well, which I have had a memory, because Veronica Bartolini, she touched on the sleep rooms in her book Sheila and the 99, and I have had a memory recently come forward before I even knew about that, when I was in what I thought, is this like a hospital ward? It's quite dark in there, weird lighting, and then I was getting attacked by some kind of rodents, and I'm screaming out, screaming out. So sometimes some people believe that your original body or a clone of you is held in a sleep room in some place like Antarctica on special projects. So I'm just starting to get into that. So okay, so in this article about MKUltra and targeting, we talk about technologies of control, and I'm just touching the surface here, guys. I'm not going very deep because I'm not an authority on these topics, but I'm going to share with you some things that I've experienced in the last few years, or even going back 20, 30 years, to be honest. So technologies of control, so methods of advance beyond crude experiments with LSD and electroshock. Today they employ RNM, remote neural monitoring, reading thoughts and memories directly through EEG pattern extraction. So electrical, I have to write this down as well, because all these buzzwords and stuff, electrical activity in the brain we're talking about with EEG. So voice to skull, V2K, and ELF. So we've got the extremely low frequencies. So synthetic telepathy transmissions that mimic internal voices. Now, I did some research into ELF, extremely low frequency, electromagnetic radiation in fields between 3 Hertz and 300 Hertz. Now, they use ELF to communicate with submarines, but it can also be coming off power lines as well. I'm in a location where there is a kind of like a shipping yard near me, which is like a military base, sorry, a naval base, and I'm surrounded by 5G towers, like surrounded. Like there's probably like 10 within this mile radius. It's insane. Really is insane. Okay, so then we've got scalar waves and direct energy weapons used for harassment, holographic projections, and psychic manipulation. Now, the direct energy weapons, I have a lot of experience with this. I didn't even realize it was. So I get a lot of kind of, it's a feeling on the back of your head that's like a really bad sunburn at times, and you're just getting this penetrating headache that's coming through. But I've also been hit directly while I was just walking through a town, and I went to another town that's about 30 minutes on the train away from me, and I was doing, I've talked about this in another video, I was hiring a hall so that I could run a retreat the next day, and I was going to pick up the keys, and I was walking fine. You know, I do have osteoarthritis, which seems to get directed at, and in my ankles and feet, but I got off the train, I was absolutely fine, and then all of a sudden I wasn't, and my legs buckled. And my right leg had been targeted, I believe, with a geo attack. And so I hobbled all the way through the town to get the key for this hall, to go and see somebody I knew as well, and all the way back. And honestly, I don't know what happened, but I got into bed afterwards. I managed to get home. My right ankle was in so much pain. My right foot was in so much pain that I could barely get up my stairs at home, and I live upstairs. And I went to bed and I passed out for hours, absolutely hours. When I woke up, the pain was starting to dissipate. Painkillers had no effect on it whatsoever, so I've got a really high pain threshold anyway, so I can take a lot, I can transmute a lot as well, but this was really intense and it lasted for hours. So I do believe it was a due attack coming from a handler that didn't like me leaving my area, okay, which is just bonkers. Bonkers is the word I'm using a lot at the moment. Okay, so gang stalking and targeted individual programs. Now, gang stalking, personally, I've not experienced, but I know somebody that has, and we've talked about it, and it is insane. So I'm familiar with a lady, and I can't say anything about her really, but she had neighbours that were loud, disruptive. Whenever she was in the garden, they would say threatening things. Even though she couldn't see them, she could still hear them through the, and then maybe see them through the fence, but they'd be saying really mean, awful things. Whenever she went anywhere, she'd notice the same people around her. She'd notice the same cars driving behind her and things like that. Whenever she used the phone, she started to hear like clicking and noises and feedback on the phone. And she even went into a different town, and she noticed that she was being monitored, and random people were coming up to her at a bus stop and asking her, where are you going? Where are you going? And I was away at a show as well, and she phoned me, and she was saying, I just don't understand how it's possible people would know where I'm going. And I kind of said, well, you know, every traffic camera is monitoring you. If you're on a targeted list, then you're literally tracked and traced wherever you go anyway. It's likely you've got trackers in your body. And when we did a remote view into her body, she had about 4 trackers in her. It was absolutely insane. Yeah, so just know that these things are there, and there's programs in place, and they can even rope in like civilians into this kind of thing as well, with like false narratives and stuff, neighborhood watch schemes, and you know, so much so. She ended up leaving her local area, you know, going to other places, but she still felt like she was in this targeting network. So she was definitely being pushed to the point of psychosis, trying to destabilize her so that people wouldn't believe her. And it was really, really intense, really intense. Okay. So I've got here technology to control Atlas integration. So we talked briefly about Atlas, and it's a global system mapping, not just bodies, but also souls using frequency grids, AI surveillance, and dimensional tracking. Now, I don't know any more about that, but do go and watch the video that Nathan Sizak did, which goes into more detail. Of course, and please put some comments below. If you have great resources, please put them in the comments as well. Okay, so from a galactic perspective, we know that this is not just happening on Earth. We know that this is a much wider scale thing we're targeting. We are tied into programs, agreements, contracts, and there are exchanges of humans going off planet anyway. We know that's happening. And we know that there's non-human factions, that there's ETs that are working with military forces. Yeah, we know that. Some of the super soldiers trained under MKUltra and its, you know, successors were not just deployed on Earth. They were sent off planet to colonies, to secret bases, to missions in timelines that, you know, we're only scraping the surface here. So MKUltra never ended. It's evolving still. They just changed the names, the covers, the agencies, but the essence is the same. It's all about control, fragmentation, weaponization of consciousness. We get bleed through memories. That's why I'm going to talk a bit about clones today as well. So even though for me personally, it took me a long time to realize I was a targeted individual, because my life has been so controlled ever since I was a child, basically. I really do believe that there's no one place I've traveled to that wasn't part of this control. There's no one relationship I've had that wasn't controlled. I look back now and I see that. I see boyfriends, husband, whatever, that were handling me to keep me in a state of anxiety and to disrupt even my sleep patterns, my time patterns, and to take control. So yeah, so it's quite heavy when you get to that point in your life when you think, no, what is going on here? So for me, targeting in my 20s looked like voices in my mind. I would, you know, trying to say to me, that won't work, that won't work. I used to have dreams that were deep fear, that I was locked in a dungeon and I was trying to get out. Since then, I've discovered that's actually SRA stuff that was going on. And there's demonic ties, and I was living near London and I was being used for rituals and experiments. But of course, mind wipes, just that memory kind of bleed throughs coming in. That even links me back into childhood, and I talk about it with David Purcell on one of our videos, rituals and stuff in childhood. And so then when I got to about 25 or around that age, I had my first known holiday abroad, and I discovered that I just couldn't stay in England. I had to start traveling, so I sold off everything I owned and booked myself into a 6-week conservation volunteers in Australia. Now, when I was looking at these kind of, what was the program called? I can't remember now. I was looking at these different programs, and I had the choices of going to San Francisco, to going to China or to going to Australia or going to like Mexico or Peru. And I was looking for adventure, but I didn't want too much of a culture shock at the time. So I knew if I went to America or South America, I would never leave, and that defeated the whole purpose of traveling the world. So I went to Australia. And I've since discovered that, yeah, weird things happen to me in Australia. And there's a video me and Sean Bond have done together where we're mapping, we're doing some grid work, and we're tracking back clones and things like that. Now, Australia has a big, deep underground military base at Pine Gap, which is like a multi-base, kind of multi-agency base. And so there's clones and things like that of me there. I talk about that with Sean Bond. So I went to Australia, then I went to New Zealand, then I lived in India for 10 years or more. So, but there's even a there's so much in India. It's also linked to the Naga and to a naval base in the Indian territory as well. So there's just so much. So wherever I went, and then I got to a point of in India where our finances were targeted so badly. And my husband started this agenda to get me to come back to the UK. And I never planned to return to the UK whatsoever, but he ended up making my life so bad that I have to say, I can't take this anymore. My son is nearly 5. Let's come back to the UK. So I came back against my own better judgment. It was totally handled. And I've been back here over 10 years now. So my son's nearly 16. So yeah, it was really, and then when my husband did join us again, it was just not good, let's put it that way. So we're not together anymore, because now I can see the whole relationship was handled. Not that there weren't good times, because there were good times. He's not a bad person, just susceptible to programming handling. Anyway, so that's a bit about MKUltra and targeting. So for me, everyday targeting looks like pain in the body, disrupted sleep. There can be voices coming in and out of my head, which I question more and more. Who does this belong to? Why am I getting this thought? Expanding into it. I've had that incident outside my house where the birds flew into something that was cloaked. That's what really opened it up for me. I've had incidents when I was in a field, in a tent, and I've had voices coming in. I've had I was lying in bed about to go to sleep, and I've got a vision of a handler reaching into my mind. That's happened to me twice. I've had moments where I have ETs in my rooms, so I get controlled by the Zeta Greys, by the reptilians. So there's a video with me and Jessica Morocco, that first video where we're talking about Orphan Black and things, and she could see a Zeta Grey either side of me doing experiments on me, but they were actually monitoring my radiation dose. And I used to work in a nuclear processing plant for a construction company doing health and safety and quality admin, but I was on site, yeah, so I was being bombarded by radiation to the point that I had Havana syndrome symptoms. And all of my colleagues just couldn't understand what was wrong with me, and then I started a detox from December 2024. So when I had the initial interview with Jessica in March 2025, she could still see that I was being monitored by the Zeta Greys, who were running experiments on me, basically to see how much radiation I could handle so that my clones could go and work in high radiation areas like Chernobyl. Okay. So yeah, so why they're doing experiments on me as the primary, no idea, but that's what's happening. So I'd entered into contracts basically. So this whole year, 2025, has been discovering that there's millions of contracts that you make all the time with the military, with ET, with hybrid programs, whatever it is. You're always making contracts. You're making these subconsciously, you're making them in your sleep. You've signed other things that have linked into this. So contracts, void, 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 void. Yeah, okay, so practical tips for targeted individuals. There might be 2 articles about this as well. So I'm going to start with the basics of energetic shielding. So this will we're always going to go back to grounding, protection, shielding, always, okay? This is a healing journey, and to start that healing process, you need to get grounded so that Mother Earth can support you, that you can transfer energy in and out of the earth to replenish you, and you're going to need to get shielded. So in this article, it talks about the greatest act of resistance is stepping into sovereignty. So you're a cosmic creator being. You are basically God. You're a fractal of God's source, Mother, Father, God, prime creator galaxy, or whatever people say. Okay, so you're stepping into your sovereignty. Once you do that, a lot of stuff starts to fall away, okay? But you've really got to hold it. So the control grids feed on fear, trauma, and disconnection from source. So your energies are being loosed. So of course they want you to be in fear and anxiety all the time, and they're going to do things to you, just like they do the general population, to keep you in those states so that they can feed off you. So there are literal entities on and in our planet that feed on negative emotions, okay? It's like the movie Monsters, Inc. If you haven't seen that, go and watch that. It's a children's movie, is it Disney Pixar? I'm not too sure. But the monsters are going into the child's bedroom to scare them every night, and then they harness the scares. They harness the screams, basically. And then by the end of the movie, they realise they could harness laughter if they wanted to, and use that kind of positive energy force to power their city. But, you know, but they've been using screams for forever. And this is disclosure. This is soft disclosure. You know, I do believe that there's whole generations of children that are born into underground things where they're kept in fear and tortured and things like that. So this is hard to stomach. So this is not for the faint of heart when you start this journey. Okay, but as a targeted individual, what can you do? You can use your energetic shield. So I work with the violet flame. I'm an anchor for the violet flame on this planet. And that's not the only thing I anchor, but that's one of the main things I can talk about. Okay, so visualize yourself in a sphere of the violet flame, or visualize the violet flame at your feet, kind of building up into your aura. David Purcell talks a lot about mirrors, so you can imagine that you're surrounded in mirrors and they're pointing out to, you know, to bounce off anything that's come towards you. And it allows in love, but it reflects back interference. Okay, you can work with the archangels if you're drawn to. So you can call in Archangel Michael, or work with your higher self aspects, your galactic team. So I have a consortium of galactic guides that I can work with. And we call them in to surround you, making sure that whatever beings you call in are benevolent and they're the highest light and resonance, and that they have no conflicting agendas. Okay, and that one really surprised me recently when I found out that my Saint Germain that I work with, who's kind of an aspect of me in a way, and Merlin, they had conflicting agendas in regards to me and my energy. So I cast them away for a while. I'll let them back once I purify their energies. So only working with guides, beings, ETs and entities are benevolent. Okay, that's really important. No conflicting agendas, and they're working the highest love light, light love, and that kind of thing. Yep. Okay, so working with the law of one statements. Now, I'm going to keep referring people back to Energetic Synthesis by Lisa Renee, because I really do believe there's some great content there. And there's also a 12-dimensional shield that we'll talk about as well. So, you know, making sovereignty statements. I'm God, I'm sovereign, I'm free, my energy is my own, making these kind of statements. So there's information there about I'm a being of infinite worth and infinite light. I am one with the infinite creator. No force has dominion over me. I am sovereign in love and free will. But you can create your own sovereignty statement. You know, whatever works for you, whatever's comfortable, whatever feels right for you, use that. I work mainly with the I am the violet flame statement. And you can find that online. So and as I'm saying that, I can feel my energy building. I can feel the violet flame empowering me. Okay, so grounding rituals, getting outside, working with grounding stones, sending down your roots. Salt baths as well are great for detoxing. Now, I never used to work with salt. So as a crystal therapist, I used to think that halite was a bit too stripping. But the more and more I start to work with ET energy and things like that, yeah, I do need the occasional salt bath and it feels good. But I also tune in to the halite wisdom as well. So I try to draw wisdom from the salt, because when you work with, say, Himalayan salt, or Dead Sea salt, I actually work with a lot. There's a lot of information there that you can tune into, okay? Now, detoxing general frequencies, 5G, electromagnetic frequencies in your home, plants, loads of plants. I think I need to add that in actually. Loads of plants, switching off the Wi-Fi at night time, switching off your devices, not having a phone near your head is really important. Phone not even in the bedroom would be good. Using things like orgonite, shungite, black tourmaline near your electronics. We've done tests at Crystal College years ago where we did black tourmaline versus shungite. Shungite was more effective than tourmaline, but it was a close second, yeah? So that's really good. So energetic hygiene. So there's more information on my debrief page about energetic hygiene. We're talking daily practices, okay? Daily practices, grounding, centering, protecting, shielding, that kind of thing. Daily practice. Now, community and witnessing. So connecting with others is important because they hold a piece of your puzzle, okay? There'll be something that I say, the sound of my voice, the resonance. I'm a tone medic, so there'll be something that I say that will empower something within you. It could even help you recall a memory. So as you go around people in our community, you might find that there's something they say that, you know, brings up. So I was watching a couple of the ACIO videos at the start of the year. My friend Brian Seng had a video, and I'd never even heard of the ACIO before that. And I watched his video, and they were talking about Project Ibis. Now, as they were talking, I got a flash memory, one of my first memories of this project. And I'm about 7 years old. I know that because of the bedroom that I was in at the time, and I'm looking down at my necklace. So I'm literally like holding my necklace, which looked like a crystal. But as I'm looking at it, it turned into a kaleidoscope of rainbow colours, and I knew that I was teleporting or time traveling, okay? But I knew that not everyone would be able to see that. I knew it was secret, and that's all I remember from that project. But that activated me. There was another video where somebody asked about the observers, the master of observers, and as Peter was talking about it, it literally activated screens to open in my mind. Multiple TV screens were opening, and I was recalling a lot, okay, which I talk about in a couple of other videos. So don't isolate yourself is the main message on this one. Do not isolate yourself, because then you're more susceptible to programming, okay? You want to be around people who are like-minded, because when you talk to people in the everyday mundane world, they are going to tell you that you're nuts. It's as simple as that. They are. They can't relate to what you're saying. They're not on the same frequency as you, the same vibration. So there's a mix match there. So you do need to be around people who are on the same wavelength as you to progress. As a targeted individual, as an experiencer, whatever, you need to find your tribe, okay? Now, I found people that have the same soul flame as me, but they're all over the planet. That we've literally been scattered. We've been scattered. But luckily, with the internet and the podcasts and things like that, we're finding each other exactly as we're meant to at this point in time, and I believe that to be true. Like our beacons are coming on in a way, and we're all finding each other, you know. And for me, the podcast Typical Skeptic has been a really big resource to help me find my soul tribe. Those people that have either experienced things with me, or have lived with me in Atlantis, Lemuria, or other off-world civilizations, yeah? People that are with trauma bonds, we're definitely starting to find each other now. People who've been in these trauma-based mind control projects like Montauk, people are starting to find each other now because of that resonance. You hold the same trauma, unfortunately. But I did a video with Sean Bond recently on his channel, Psionic League, where we were doing a live vision quest. And he'd already put the title about activating altars, and I didn't even know that that was even a possibility. But we were going to dig a bit deeper into the altar and see what was coming up. And I did actually activate and reintegrate some of my altar personalities, which was really, really good. So that video is not for everybody. I know some of my friends had to watch it in like 3 sittings. but we did it in a very love, positive way. He's a really good space holder, sacred space holder. Okay. So don't isolate yourself, but know that not everybody will be ready to deal with you, okay, to be your friend, to be around you. There'll be some people that you'll look at their video and think, nope, just don't like that person. And then you find out that they're actually partnered with you, or you've been in a similar program, or you've got a shared experience, yeah? So, but not everybody is ready to see you, hear you, or be around you, okay? And that's because it's traumatic. But sharing your testimony can help to validate your truth, and it can actually help to reduce psychological things that are going on within you. But the more you share your testimony, like the more I start to make these videos, I get increased targeting by making these videos. So I'm making this video now before 9 a.m. knowing that the rest of my day is going to be really awful because I'm going to get handled, okay? We'll talk about handlers a bit later on. So we've got here claiming your timeline, using law of one statements, working with joy, laughter and creativity. I have prepared another article that goes in a little bit deeper into protective shielding practices. So if you get remote neural monitoring, there's a little bit more about that in there. So defense against thought reading, memory extraction and thought insertion. Now these obviously are just examples. Please do your own research and go deeper. So we've got wearing Faraday fabrics and shielded hats. There's loads of things out there in the community. I have a shungite cap that I wear occasionally, which is from orifimshungite.com, which is a UK-based company, and there's a link in my my little bio section where I get a referral link. So if you do buy anything, if you're in the UK or Europe, I'm not sure if they're shipping to America right now because of all the tariffs and stuff, but if you do use my link, then I kind of get like a little bonus basically. Grounding the mind, so daily journaling is really good to help with you grounding your thoughts, capturing them more, having that record testimony. And there's a lot of psychic bleed through, which we're going to talk about when we talk about clones. So I get a lot of psychic bleed through. So then you've got the salts, then we've got spiritual protections like the violet flame, like the mirrors, working with your chakras. So chakras hold memories. The body, your skin, your muscles, they all hold memories. So at the very beginning, you might want to, you know, not have yourself as wide open all the time. So it's that learning to open up for things and close down for things. That's important. So when I do card readings, when I work as an oracle, the person sitting before me, my energy field opens up to kind of engulf that person. And then when we're done, it closes back down. Okay, I'm not wide open all the time. Yeah. I open up to receive information and then I close down afterwards. Okay. Now we've got voice to skull, V2K, and the ELF, the extra low frequencies. So defensive mechanisms to put in place about intrusive voices and mood manipulation. Okay, this is a big one, mood manipulation. So Sean Bond has talked about portals opening within your body and fear and sadness and anxiety being dumped on. So for me, it was anxiety. I was dumped on with massive amounts of anxiety to the point that I had to take medication from the doctor, which obviously is not something that I like to do. But again, I'm not a medical professional. If you need professional medical or mental health advice, please do speak to your medical practitioner. Okay, but to work with these kind of things going on in your mind, you can use white noise machines. You can use the 528 hertz frequency, and especially blasting out the 528 as well. Michelle from Earth Grid Rescue Mission talks about working with the 528 frequency on her channel. Working with copper or shungite, whatever. I wear a black agate wristband. Some of this is to filter my energy that I share with others as well, because it can be a bit too overpowered at times. And I have sigils on my arms. Okay, these are shields that I work with. Yeah, this is the Syrian seal, which acts as a galactic shield, and that really came into play recently. I'm getting something on my left arm soon as well. Because I could tell when I got a massive psychic attack on one of my podcasts, my right arm was not as fried as my left arm, so the sigil's definitely activated. Then we've got sleep hygiene again, okay, and introducing grounding stones, using blackout curtains switching off the Wi-Fi. Now, I switched off the Wi-Fi one night, because my son is a gamer and he wouldn't go to bed. And so I actually switched it off, mainly because of him, not so much the targeting. And then the next day, it would not come back on. And of course I need the Wi-Fi to do my work, and I was doing something really important at the time, and the Wi-Fi would not come back on. Now this again is still handling. And so I was kind of being punished. I get punished quite a lot. And my targeting program. So I'm generally, most of the time I can be fine, and I'll do something and I'll get punished. Yeah. So it took me a while. It took me 2 days, I think, to get the Wi-Fi back on, working properly. So yeah, just know that that's a thing. Okay, so spiritual protections, commanding sovereignty. I reject all artificial voices. I only hear the voice of my higher self and divine source. Golden halo. Light language, listening to singing bowls. So light language is tones. It's really important. And it doesn't matter what it sounds like, doesn't matter what you're saying, it's the resonance that you're creating. I also work just with general tones like hum, vam, lam, those kind of ones as well, where I listen to singing bowls out loud to cleanse my space. I am a sound practitioner, so I do have my own singing bowls as well. I've got crystal bowls, I've got Tibetan bowls, I work with wah-wah tubes, I work with gongs and things like that. So I do work with sound a lot, which is quite funny because I'm deaf. So yeah, so I can't always hear what it sounds like for you. I only hear what it sounds like in my hearing aids. So for scalar and direct energy weapons, again, shielding. Okay. Water is also great. Water is a really big key. So making sure that when you're washing your body, you're using kind of programming yourself with positive affirmations and empowering words with your water. When you're drinking water, you can Reiki your water, or just put your hands there and say nice things to the water to help program yourself in a positive way. Okay, so it talks about spiritual protections there as well. Core practices, Law of One. Now the 12D Shield by Lisa Renee from Energetic Synthesis is a really great practice. I find I can't do it consistently because part of my targeting is I cannot focus. I find it difficult to maintain routines. I get easily distracted. I've got self-defeating altars that activate within me to stop me doing things. Yeah. I've got kind of like a demand avoidance that kicks in, a pathological demand avoidance. So if somebody says, this is going to be done right now, my body goes into freeze, okay, which is not good. But I've put information on this handout, Targeted Individual Shielding Practices, which is available on my website, yeah, anchorhaven.co.uk debrief. And there's a video on YouTube, plus there's more information at energeticsynthesis.com or ascensionglossary.com. So these are great free resources by Lisa Renee, okay? The 12th dimensional shielding technique is about working with your Merkaba to like go down to the core of the earth and then come back up to activate a white platinum shield of light, anchoring you into like the heart of source and back down again. It's a really good practice if you can do that. You know, once you've learned how to do it, you can do boundary testing, and it takes a minute once you get into that practice of doing it. It's really good. So there's also information on my website about the HGS manual, the Heros Gamos system, which is by Lisa Renee, Energetic Synthesis. There's a lot of information in there, but I've put a separate audio recording of the hygiene statements, okay, so you can listen to my voice. It's not the best recording because you can hear my computer buzzing a little bit, but you can just listen to these things and have it going. So it's about you standing in your sovereignty. There's also information on the website with the Ashiana Dean manuals, okay, I've got 2 of the manuals there, so have a look, and I put it as a free resource. I think they've got my name on the bottom because I purchased them, so they're not for public distribution or whatever, they're just for your personal use. So you can check my website for more information on that. Okay, so that's just information about targeting and shielding. Of course, there's so much more. I'm just scratching the surface here. Please do your own research. As my mind updates, as my information updates, I will update the resources on my website if I can. So I know everybody has their own ways of working, and you're probably thinking, oh, that's really basic. But sometimes we need to go back to basics. We need to make sure that your energetic foundation is in place before you go further. Okay, let's not complicate things. Let's start with a really grounded focus. Yeah, put those basics in place so that you can build off them. So the 12th dimensional shield is all about putting in that Earth Star foundation, expanding that out, creating that pillar of light. That's a really useful tool. And the way Lisa Renee works is that everything is built off that 12D shield. Okay, so I know some of the things I've listed in these articles may seem very basic, but they're just great foundational resources for people who are newly awakening. And I've basically been told in my mind by my guides that more and more super soldiers and military abductees are going to start coming forward from this point in time. So we're in September 2025. So it's really important to have these basics in place, okay, for people to build off. Okay, now there's an article in my website here about echoes, fragments, and soul retrieval, and about the echo chain. So an introduction to clones, basically. Now I'm talking from an experiencer, MyLab, and SSP perspective, because that's where I'm coming from. My first introduction to clones, although I've obviously been fascinated by that kind of thing for years, was a few years back. I was in France, I was at Disneyland Paris, and I'm standing there at the bus stand with my family, my sister, her husband, my son, and my nephew, and we were waiting for the buses that take you to all the hotels around Disneyland Paris. And my brother-in-law, who's an actor and he's quite energetic, he's standing there pointing at this lady across the street saying, "It's you, it's you, it's you, look, it's you, it's you." And and I look over and there's a lady, and she's actually standing with a pushchair, and because I remember her so clearly, she looked exactly like me. Same height, same face, except her hair was like a white platinum blonde. Yeah. And I'm looking at her across the street, and my initial reaction was panic, and I felt sick in my body. And that sickness is a proximity alert, because you're not meant to be near your clones. So yeah, so that was my first introduction to, wow, that woman looks like a clone of me. Years before that, I'd had people saying to me, "Do you work in this nightclub? Do you work in that nightclub in Croydon?" And I lived in Bromley at the time, which is like just south of London in Kent. And I'm like, no. And I had about 4 or 5 people say to me, "Are you working in that nightclub now?" And I'm just like, what is going on here? So that was kind of like, okay, I never saw her, but I knew, and I was told by plenty of witnesses that there was somebody that looked exactly like me working in a nightclub in Croydon. So that's 2 UK potential clones, well, UK, Europe potential clones. And then when I had my first interview with Jessica Morocco from the ACIO, we just had an initial one-to-one session, which is like $100, and you can book in with Jessica at readingsbyariel.com, I think. Okay. So we started to talk about clones, and because I said, I think I've seen a clone of me, and then Jessica basically says, yeah, I'm seeing tons of you psychically. I'm seeing Julia everywhere, she says. And then, and then she starts to talk about seeing me in a burqa, seeing me as an assassin, seeing me as an observer, seeing me as a handler, and all this kind of stuff. So then I asked, I feel really drawn to Diego Garcia, a naval base in the Indian territory. And I've heard people talking about it, and then when I googled it and I saw the map and saw how close it was to India, where I resided for 10 years, I knew I had a clone there. So Jessica was kind of a little bit shocked. She's saying, how are you seeing your clones? How are you seeing what your clones are doing? That's not normal. And so it turns out I've got some kind of ability to daydream into what the clones are doing, where the clones are, and things like that. So I kind of clone slip, which is not advised. Um, so I was told off, and they continue to tell me off for this as well. So basically, don't go into your clones. If you have that ability, we're told not to go into our clones, because potentially it could be dangerous that whoever's on the other side, first of all, you don't know where you are. So you have to do a lot of questioning in the clone's mind. Where am I? What's going on here? What, you know, whatever. So it's meant to be very dangerous. Okay, so I don't recommend anybody does that. It does seem to be something that I have the ability to do occasionally. Sometimes consciously, but most of the time unconsciously, which is not good. Okay, so an introduction to clones. There's an article I put on my website at anchorhaven.co.uk/debrief, just in case I cut the video. So cloning is one of the most controversial and shadowy topics, okay? Some people believe in it and some people don't. And I do believe, because I've had my own personal experiences, but you might be thinking, well, that's a load of rubbish, and that's absolutely fine. Just take what resonates. But it is thought that clones are used by the military on planet and off planet, and they're used in the secret space program as well to transfer consciousness. So while mainstream science is just kind of stuck in cloning Dolly the sheep, there's been clones, I reckon, for more than 100 years, okay? And, you know, Hollywood, politics, all that, there's clones everywhere. Yeah, so use your own judgment on that one. So clones from an experiencer point of view, there's so much more than just things in the lab, you know. They are biological copies, sometimes partial, sometimes an exact copy of you, your DNA and abilities. And they're used for experiments, for infiltration, and for missions where you can be expendable, okay? They're also synthetics. Now, I don't know a lot about synthetics, but I know that I have memories as a genetic scientist, and I've been told not to call myself a mad scientist, to call myself a genius geneticist. So in the Dark Fleet programs and things like that. So I have one of my very first flashback memories a couple of years ago was me in a lab. I feel like I was a man, and I'm working at my desk, and then the next minute that I'm inside this gigantic clone Supersoldier, and then I'm back at my desk again. So it's like I'm running experiments, and the person I was working with at the time said that it felt like Orion. So okay. So that was one of the first things. So replicants, near perfect copies of the host, with a fragment of their consciousness. So in a way, I do identify with that a lot. But also there's the avatar body, clone shells inhabited by consciousness transfer or soul overlay technology. So avatar is probably the closest to what's used in the secret space program, where there's multiple versions of you, but also I know that I am multi-positioned. So I'm not just fractured in my consciousness, my higher self has multi-positioned itself. So we've came across one of those recently, and we're calling her Angelique. So Angelique was on the moon, and I've done another video where I talk more, 2 videos where I talk about Angelique as an alter or an aspect, but we know now that she's more of a multi-positioned version of my higher self. So I've been calling her back, but instead of integrating into my mind, she feels like she's side by side with me. So people like Drago Reed use the term echo for clone. So when he was at the Full Disclosure Now conference, he talks about the echo chain of clones. Now, Drago Reed and I are connected, shall we say, in a clone program, which is very similar to the Orphan Black TV show. So when I was talking to Jessica Morocco from the ACIO, and I said to her, this feels like Orphan Black. So when, you know, she gets off that train, she sees someone that looks like her, and discovers there's versions of her all over the world that have been bred into surrogate bodies all over the world. And Jessica agreed, yes, it seemed exactly like Orphan Black. However, in Orphan Black, there's kind of females in general society, and then the males were in the military. But for me, it's a bit of both. So the Orphan Black TV show allegedly is based on a clone program, potentially by Kruger, which is like a faction of the Supersoldier secret space program. And it is thought from my ACIO records that I agreed to go into this clone program to basically help disguise me and protect me and things like that. Now, when I was talking to Jessica, she saw me as the female, and she saw there was a male counterpart, which we believe to be Drago Reed. And Drago and I do seem to have similar DNA, similar lineage, so we seem to be a good match. And it's possible that our DNA has been put together to make time soldiers, okay? Now, we have been multi-cloned, a lot more than most people. So because of our abilities, we are multi-clones, we are echo chain templates. So we are the primary, the original, and then there's multiple versions of us used on and off world. Now, when I first started to get into this idea with Sean Bond in February 2025, he said, "Oh, you've got clones." And I was like, "Hang on, I'm aware that there might be one or two. How many are you talking about?" And he was like, kind of, what can I tell her? So he told me 10,000. And he kind of broke it down, how many on planet, off planet, how many are being sold to the Naga, how many like at the reptilians and things like that. I'm getting interference coming in on this already, it's making me quite dizzy. Okay, but when I did my interview with the ACIO and Peter the Insider, and I asked Peter, I've been told 10,000, and he's like, "Well, that's ridiculous because there's more than 20 million of you." And so, of course, that was a really hard to handle number. But I've been introduced with the 10,000, so I was coming to terms with that for a few weeks. And then when I was told there was multiple millions of me, like 24 million or something, and this video is available publicly on Jessica's channel. Yeah, so that's a lot to handle. Now, I'm gonna read for a little bit to help me because I'm getting targeted coming in. So we use the term echo to describe a clone, with the original possibly as the primary soul. So in the echo chain concept, it's a network of clones connected to one primary consciousness, and each echo is tethered back to the primary soul through a form of energetic resonance or consciousness link. Experiences, traumas, and death in one echo clone can ripple back through the chain, sometimes surfacing as phantom pain, missing time, or deja vu in the primary. Now, I can attest that, yes, I have had bleed through pain, bleed through memories coming in. I'm not too sure about missing time, but my days do go very quickly at times, yeah? But I never really think, oh, I've lost 3 hours or anything like that. Deja vu, yes. So I have daydreams. I have daydreams of, if I was to travel to Asia or the Middle East next, maybe I should pack a burqa. And then I get an image of me wearing a burqa. But Jessica said that she could see me as an assassin integrating into the community, literally wearing a burqa, okay? And when she said that, that freaked me out because I have daydreams like that. So that's really weird. So that's kind of deja vu coming through the echo clone into me, the primary. So the echo chain can be used for multi-location deployment while the primary remains on Earth. Echoes may be active in off-world programs, underground facilities, or parallel timelines. Yes, I do believe that to be true. So the system allows hidden programs to exploit one human soul and their abilities across many different vessels, missions, and realities simultaneously. I believe that to be true. Okay, so why clones are created? Basically, it's harnessing your magical and celestial DNA. So some people are not clones at all because they just don't have the right match to the ancient technology or whatever. And then other people like me are multi-clones because of our abilities. So experiences consistently report that clones are created, and it's not random, okay? You're a celestial being, and once you enter this planet, the dark forces track and trace you just like the light forces do, okay? So we're already targeted. Every starseed is targeted, okay? Just some are considered targeted individuals and more closely monitored than others, while others are loosely targeted and allowed to have, they're more monitored, and they're allowed to lead their lives until something requires them, okay? So clones may be designed to exploit starseed or hybrid DNA. Now, a lot of people similar to me who might be a galactic emissary, we have very mixed DNA. So I've got, Lyran, Procyon, Andromedan, Arcturian. There's a big mixture in there. And because of that, that means potentially I can activate and upgrade and repair things like stargates, okay? Of course, take what resonates. It's a lot of information. So many targeted individuals carry lineages connected to ET or higher dimensional beings. These genetics often carry latent psychic, telepathic, or healing abilities, or access codes to ancient technology, is what I believe. Okay, so magical or shamanic gifts, natural clairvoyance, astral projection, remote viewing abilities, mediumship, or energy manipulation. Okay, so these are skills that are coveted by dark forces because they just don't have the right frequency and vibration, because they're not working in the light, to be able to access a lot of the technology. Dimensional navigation. Now, this one is quite important because projects like Phoenix, the Montauk project, use a lot of us for dimensional navigation. So the ability to open portals, anchor timelines, or withstand time travel dissonance, which is vortex sickness, which Audrey Walters from Starseed Netlink talks about in her latest book, Space School Lessons Volume 1. So because I have an ability, supposedly, to transmute radiation, I have an ability as a record keeper that allows me to not be affected very much by vortex sickness. So some people may try and go through a portal and they may die, or they may be overcome with sickness because they can't handle the dissonance there. Okay. So energetic resilience. The primary soul's DNA blueprint allows echo clones to survive in hostile environments such as off-world atmospheres or higher frequency zones. Okay, so by cloning the primary, programs can field test and weaponize abilities without burning out the original. However, I still get plenty of tests going on me as well, so that they don't waste clones, which is a bit weird. Okay. Now, I wanted to talk a bit about my personal stuff that I've been looking into recently. So Drago Reed is like my Supersoldier partner, which we call dyad. So we're kind of made in a pair. And I connected with Drago Reed in March this year, 2025. And there was like a bond between us. We could both feel, we were both getting kind of energy coming up and things like that. Unfortunately, I can't release the video because it's a bit too personal, some of the things we talk about. But there very much is an alpha beta relationship there. So, and I can feel it, and it's not in a subservient way, but I know that he's the alpha and I'm the beta super soldier. That's how it is, and it's just a fact. Yeah. So so these echoes, these clones, are often created in dyad partnerships, pairs of clones structured as alpha and beta. So there are plenty of super soldiers out there that are just working in kind of like an infantry. There's some that are working alone, and there's some that are working as a team, like two together that complement each other. And that's kind of the situation that I have personally with Drago Reed. Now, he's just one of my dyads, so there's going to be more out there potentially that I'm linked to, or maybe he is the only one for me, but he's referenced that he has more dyads. Okay, for his echo chain. So in a way, it's framed as he's the dominant and I'm the subsidiary. So, but we work together. It's a system where I'm a subsidiary potentially, and this partnership can also be interchangeable. So there could be abilities that he has that I have. So sometimes I'll be more dominant in one particular ability, or he will. It depends on the mission, but we complement each other. So the alpha clone often takes the role of mission leader. Could also be psychic navigator or anchor in certain timelines, but they're more of the boots on the ground kind of thing, yeah. Whereas the beta clone is like a subsidiary, a supportive anchor or stabilizer. It can also be a protector to protect the alpha as well, and I feel that quite strongly. It can be an amplifier of the alpha's field, a psionic ability to telepathically connect to the alpha and share mission schematics. So Misha Johnson has talked previously about the female being used as the psionic to connect into the male super soldier. So we feed each other information. So maybe he's boots on the ground and I'm on a ship or on a base, and we're linked psychically, and I'm feeding him information while he's on the ground, yeah. Or I'm monitoring his energetics to make, or sending repair or whatever to make sure that he can complete the mission. So that's quite interesting. So the role of the alpha and beta are not quite fixed. It's not like he's always one thing and I'm always one thing, but my skills will always complement his skills in a way. So we can have supportive skill sets, and even though a lot of my abilities are about anchoring and stabilizing, he's also got similar timeline abilities as well. So we can be used in time missions, time soldiers. So in battle, we can both be offensive and defensive, making us highly adaptable, and we can share information telepathically through neural link and telepathic connection as a unit. Now, I have had a memory come forward, and I think it's 2 memories that have merged into one, because in this memory, he's ahead of me, suited up, and I'm running behind. And then also I'm then in him, so I've seen through his eyes in this memory. So in a way, I've merged in my consciousness to his, and I'm feeding him schematics, plans, mission codes and things like that. Okay, so we can function as 2 halves of one consciousness, capable of mirroring and balancing each other. Now, there is a tether scan there as well. There's a tether between the 2 of us, our super soldiers, and I experienced something recently that makes me believe, this is hard to talk about. Okay, so a recent experience I had was, it was quite painful, and so this was before I went in for my foot surgery. So this was on Sunday, the 6th of July, 2025, I think. I was going in for a CAT scan on the Monday, and I was having my foot surgery on the Tuesday. And on the Sunday, I was watching a video that Dr. Amir and Ileana the Star Traveler had done about Drago, when they were talking about some of his alters that are resident on a ship. And the main alter is Commander Merrick, and then there's 2 other identities on the same ship. Now, first of all, the concept of clones being in that kind of proximity blows me away. I'm not really sure how that works, because I've experienced in real time being near a clone, and it was really, really uncomfortable. So there must be some kind of new advanced technology there that I don't have access to that allows them to be in that proximity. Anyway, so Dr. Amir and Ileana are reading through some questions that Drago had about certain information that was shutting him down when he tries to explore things. And I was pottering about, and I suddenly felt something come over me, and I needed to sit down, and I passed out for 10 minutes. When I came back, the video was still playing, and I was aware that something had connected into my mind. Okay, now at the time I believed it to be the ship. The Commander Merrick ship, and it was scanning my mind, and I seem to have made a connection into the ship just because I've been listening to them talk about it, and having this dyad connection, something had linked in, but I believe it's because there's a tether between the 2 of us, and I was getting actively scanned in my mind. It was as if my mind had a typewriter, like nee, dunk, nee, dunk, a bit like that, and I was getting bombarded with huge amounts of energy, as if I was being attacked by this ship. So I tried to take control, and had trouble. So I had to call on a friend who literally was driving at the time, and they said, there's huge amounts of energy coming through the phone right now. I feel like my phone is going to explode. What is going on? And then they psychically saw a commander who was trying to basically disconnect me from this ship that I had inadvertently connected into, or I had activated the tether between me and the dyad partner. So we worked to release, but I still had massive amounts of information on me. Spoke to another friend who again said, what's going on? My phone has gone on fire as I'm talking to you. You need to ground your energy. So I used my grounding mat to start myself off, and then I went outside, and there was huge amounts of energy being sent directed to me through this tether. Whether it was coming from my dyad or coming from the dyad ship, I have no idea, but it was massive. Never experienced anything like it, but as I talk about this, I feel like I'm connecting in. Okay, I'm just going to put some shielding. Okay, I've never had to pause a video as much as this one. Anyway, so yeah, so there is a tether there. And when I started to explore this idea, what I realized was that before missions, both dyads would have a backup made of memories and things like that to ensure if anything happened to the other one, a new clone could be made with the same information, okay? To keep that dyad connection there, the alpha and the beta. So, which is quite interesting because I was going in for a surgery and I feel like an actual backup of me was being made by my counterpart subconsciously. And bear in mind, we don't really know each other, but we've been energetically tethered. So it's possible that's happened before, we've just not realised. So just kind of getting into that now. So a tether scan is what I'm calling it. Memories copied or locked in before and after missions may take place to ensure information is not corrupted due to mission or activities affected by the primary soul. The echo chain template. So I was going in for a surgery. Weirdly enough, when I went in for the surgery, I came out with a picture 2 weeks later of an x-ray that clearly showed a tracker in my toe. So yeah, so right to be cautious. Okay, now as the alpha might have to run solo missions and won't always need the beta super soldier, and I already knew I was like the Winter Soldier, my echo would be placed in stasis, some kind of suspended state where I could just be on ice basically until the beta was needed again. So as a subsidiary, I did not run every mission with the alpha dyad. There would be some missions where he would be solo, but then other missions, especially time-place missions, then he would need the beta to anchor his energy to ensure his safety. And yeah, so when the beta goes into a suspended state, it would allow programs to conserve resources by only deploying one of us at a time, and it would protect me from necessary trauma and make sure that I would be basically available in case, you know, he needed me for something else. It would reduce the psychological bleed through to the primary soul by minimizing simultaneous echo activity because we're both linked into our primary souls. Yeah, so me and him are still linked either way. So in this, the alpha beta dyad system becomes a flexible asset, sometimes both active, sometimes one dormant, ensuring the primary's ability, which is the human, can be expressed in the most efficient way possible across missions. Now, why would we be using clones in the first place? Okay, so military abductions, my lab, operations, expendable soldiers. Now, not only do I know I'm expendable, I know that my clones have been used as food, as some form of currency off planet. It's come up in a video with Sean Bond, how the reptilians are using me as food. So we started out with say 20 odd million clones, and then Sean and I did a session. We did a remote view session to isolate the nefarious ones and to start to collapse and dissolve them out. Now they do contain an essence of my soul, so when they, you know, when they die or when we disconnect, I can pull back that essence of my soul, which makes me a little bit stronger, calling back more memories every time. So the echoes can also be used as test subjects, subjected to trauma-based conditioning, drug trials, psychic experiments that feed data back through the chain. Doppelgangers. Some echoes are used as stand-ins for the primary in daily life, creating confusion and covering for absences. Now, I don't know if that's ever happened to me, but we're pretty sure that when it comes to things like the president and the royal families, that definitely happens, aren't we? And we just kind of know that to be true because there's a lot of speculation on that anyway. So in the secret space program, the SSP, reportedly from testimonies and things like that, echo chains for advanced applications, time travel. Okay, echoes act as potential placeholders in alternate timelines, minimizing paradox risks to the primary. Now, one of my Angelique identities was used as a time placeholder, holding together two densities basically, and that's something that's come up recently. Long duration service. So instead of aging the original body and de-aging the original body, consciousness fragments are cycled through echo vessels for decades of off-world missions. Now, people talk about the 20 and back programs. Penny Bradley talks about 60 and back, saying that she's had over 60 and backs. So at any one time, a super soldier can have versions of them that are older and younger at the same time in this reality, other realities, and other contexts of existence. I'm getting so much interference on this right now. Okay, so hybrid enhancements. Certain echoes are modified genetically for hostile environments, psychic warfare, or interdimensional travel. But they're still connected to the primary, they're still within the echo chain, but certain ones will be augmented and modified for different environments potentially. So as an experiencer, when we start to learn about these clones, these echoes, it can be really validating, but it can also be really disturbing, okay, to know that this goes on. Now in my records, it talks about I volunteered for this because it would help me to be hidden away a bit more, but also, you know, if my soul is fragmented everywhere, then there's the possibility that I'm not going to die like that. So if I do die after this video, which I have no desires to take my own life in any way, if something happens to me, you'll know it's because I'm making this video. If I totally change my point of view, you'll know I've been replaced by an echo. Yeah, if I change how I look, if I change how I sound, if I change my point of view on particular perspectives, you'll know that I've been replaced. Yeah. Now I do know that this content that I'm creating now in September 2025 will change soon, because I'm going to have another video with the ACIO, hopefully in September or October this year, because I'm ready. I've taken 6 months to process the information from my last video, to integrate, to upgrade, to understand, and now I'm ready to go a bit deeper. So it is quite highly possible that I will make an upgraded version of this, but it will always be in a positive way. If I change and suddenly start saying this information is rubbish, this information is not true, you'll know I've been replaced, okay? Just putting that out there. So from an experiencer point of view, learning about having clones, having echoes, can actually help you to get more memory, because what you're doing is you're opening up to possibilities, and they're still you. So I used to think of alters as being within the body, aspects as being a clone outside of the body, and I was told by Drago Reed, it's all the same, it's all you, okay? Then you hear other people saying it's not you, okay? So just choose what resonates. For me, I understand that I get bleed through visions, I get bleed through memories, so I know this feels true to me, okay? Now you might feel differently, and that's okay. Yeah, this is a unique journey. Now, sudden flashes of memory, or seeing yourself, or daydreaming about yourself. So those daydreams, I know for me personally, that's like slipping into my clone's viewpoint. And I had something come up recently where I was on a plane, and I could see myself on a plane in the sky. It was daylight, and I actually asked the question, how did I get on this plane? What is this plane? And then I saw a memory. So I was having an active view, an active clone slip, and then a memory came in to the awareness to show me how I got on that plane and what the plane looked like. And then I went back into active view mode, and then I was able to ask a few questions, and then the connection went. So I do not recommend doing this. I've been told repeatedly by the ACIO that this is not something that should be happening. So unfortunately, it's an ability that I don't fully have control over right now, but hopefully in the future I will have more control, and we'll be able to use this for good somehow, for the highest good of all. So if it doesn't benefit the highest good of all, obviously it's not something I'm going to pursue, so I'm just going to put that out there. So fragmented recall, sudden flashes or dreams that feel like another life, often the bleed through of echo experiences. So it could be when you're going into your dream time, into the astral, that you're actually tuning in to these clones, okay? And it could be you're living lots of weird lifetimes because you're stepping into their bodies. Soul fatigue. So as an experiencer, you may get soul fatigue when you feel like you're stretched too much. Now that I can attest to, because I've literally spread out across the freaking galaxy. So yes, there's fatigue. There is fatigue, fatigue, unexplained injuries, unexplained pain in the body. Okay, so yes, I feel like that is true. Now, when you start to think about clones, you might start to think about ethically, what does this mean? How does this affect your karma? I cannot answer those questions for you, but it's interesting to explore. Does the echo have its own spiritual rights? Is it a sovereign being? I really don't know. But in a way, they're all versions of me. They're all soul extensions in a way. So starting to delve into clones as part of your super soldier, that's quite important, I think, for me. I mean, it's come up that I'm linked into somebody particularly. So, and a specific person has come forward, you know, from working with the ACIO. We've kind of had it confirmed. We've both done our own separate work into it. We've both had our own separate memories. So we really do feel like that connection is there. And I'm not saying he's the only person that I'm connected into, because I'm sure more will come forward. Or being a beta, maybe that is the only person I'm connected into, who knows. Now, we have been connected since childhood, which is the memories that come forward, and the connection is a trauma bond. When you start to realise that everything about your ET experiences, your military abduction experiences, your super soldier experiences, when you start to realize and admit to yourself that that is all trauma and wounding, and your heart is broken and needs healing, your mind is fractured, and you literally need to piece yourself together across time and space. Honestly, personally, it's brutal. Brutal. So I'm making these videos. I've created this section of my website, anchorhaven.co.uk/debrief, for people who are looking for a place to start. If you're feeling a bit lost, if you don't know who you are, please read through the content. Please watch the videos like this one and see if it resonates with you. I mean, chances are it may not, you know, and you might think, well, that's interesting, but I don't feel it relates to me personally, and that's absolutely fine. But I know there will be some people out there who will start to think, you know what, that keeps coming back into my head. I'm going to read a few more articles. I'm going to do my own research and see what feels true. So this is a personal journey of discovery. This is your personal trauma healing journey. Okay, so when you go to my website, please scroll right down to the bottom of the page for the free resources, the PDFs that you can download. These are not for distribution, these are just for your personal use, and I'm updating it often, adding in more things. Do reach out to me if something resonates with you and you'd like to go deeper, basically. Now, the initial consultation is just £10, so it's like 15 to 20 minutes. We can just have a chat and see. I have put a price on it because it's taken me a lot of time to get this information together. I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds in the last 2 to 5 years to discover who I am, to take courses, to have sessions with people in our community to support their work. So I've put a price on there, so it's respectful, basically, so that people understand that we need to support each other. Most of us are targeted financially, mentally, physically, emotionally. Please support each other's work if you can. Yeah, obviously, if you can't afford to have sessions with people, then do reach out. Yeah, and then we can always we can do a swap, or we can just see what else is possible. Yeah, we can do a deal in some way, or you know, you can come on my podcast, or we can do something live recorded. So both of our podcasts can benefit, but please support each other's work. And if you can do that financially, then fantastic, because I know my finances are targeted all the time. I get just enough. It usually comes in late, so I've got bills bouncing left, right and centre and things like that. My work is very reasonably priced, so a session with me and David Purcell for like an hour for the two of us, it's like $50, you know, and Me and David would share that as well, and you know, so it's really reasonably priced. So if you would like to book in with me for initial consultation, please do. If you'd like to book in for a card reading, I do Akashic record oracle card readings when I'm looking at the energies that are affecting your life right now. I'm also looking to see if there are any old oaths, vows, contracts, and things like that that we can release from your Akashic field. And when we do this, it affects not just your present life, your past life, but your parallel and future lives as well. So a lot of the time we have old vows of poverty, lack and scarcity, self-sabotage, and things like that that are affecting you. And once we start to clear those away, you can feel better very quick. Yeah, your whole perception can open up very, very quickly. If you're here in the UK, if you're local to me, I will be doing hands-on therapies again very soon. I'm recovering from a foot surgery, so I am partially non-weight on my right foot, so I've got an air boot. I'm still using crutches and things like that, but I will be available soon, and I will be attending a Mind Body Spirit event at the end of September in Manchester, where I'll be available for card readings. So Akashic, crystal and starseed card readings I'll be doing, and I'll be doing a lecture on how to work with your oracle cards as well. If you'd like to support my work, you can subscribe to my Substack for £7.50 a month. You get access to 3 evening groups every single week. So I do like 10 to 12 groups a month. So the Mondays and Wednesdays, I do have guest speakers coming on now for my podcast. But the Saturday, it's just us, and we do Akashic record healing. So I'll pull some cards and I'll talk you into a guided, channeled meditation, okay? And we'll do healing. We'll do some really deep maybe empowerment work in your Akashic record library. But yeah, there's loads we can do. I work with pendulum alchemy, and I work with quantum crystal therapy, and light codes and things like that. So it's really, really cool. So please do check out my website, check out the free resources. I'm creating this series because it is healing for me to do so. And I'm hoping it's healing for you to receive this information. And if it's not for you at this point in time, I absolutely understand. But it will be there in case you need it, okay? That's the whole point. So if you're looking for a place to start, please head to my Debrief page. If you want to book in with me privately, you can. If you want to book in with me and David, you can do that. Just ask that we do that consultation first, because our energy when we get together is very high vibrational. But please have a look at the videos on my YouTube channel. I'm uploading some to Rumble as well, and some on my Substack. But on my YouTube, there are, I think there's 10 episodes with me and David, and I'm calling it Galactic Support Series. David and I are talking about our recall. It's an almost weekly series, so we've been doing this, you know, for the last 2 months or so. Where we're actively talking about things that we're discovering. Now, David is an ET conscious contactee, so he has a relationship with ETs in his day-to-day. You know, they come in and they're, you know, talking to him, and he's asking them questions and things like that. We both work with the forest people, the Sasquatch, which is something quite new that's happened for both of us. So there's some videos where we are channeling the Sasquatch. So David is openly, he's opening the channel, and I'm supportively anchoring the channel. But sometimes we both receive information, which is quite interesting. And he works with Hajmal, and I work with a female guide privately as well. So we're going to be doing an episode very soon with Chris and Joanna Jacobs, and talking to them about, and Christopher, about all the different ETs and elementals that he channels and the work that they do at the Rising. So I'm really excited about that. And we've got an upcoming video soon with Veronica Bartolini, who is She-Hulk, talking about her experiences in the secret space programs and shared memory recall that the three of us have. So that's going to be really interesting. So if you would like to do a podcast episode with myself and David to talk about your super soldier, or, you know, things that you have from Solar Warden, from Kruger, from Nachtwaffen, the Dark Fleet, or even Montauk, things like that. If you would like to, please do send me or David a message, and we can arrange something. Yeah. But when we're recalling active memories like this, we can support each other, and we can kind of amplify the energy in a way. And David can really help people make sense of these memories, because he has a lot of great context in his memories, and he's very what's the right word? He's very clear. You know, we're both very clear about certain things, very cut and dry, very blunt. So of course it's not going to be for everybody, our videos, but please do give them a watch and let us know if you would like to talk about your experiences. Then please do so. I've also done a video on which is on my channel. It's on the Basis Project channel as well, with Miles Johnston, where Miles is talking a lot about, you know, deep underground military bases. We're talking about targeting. We're talking about old plans for humanity to leave the galaxy and stuff like that. We're talking about standing stones, monoliths, and I'm sharing some of my personal experiences as well. So I should be doing a couple more videos, short videos with Miles soon, because I'm helping support the International Disclosure Conference here in the UK, which is the 12th to 14th of December 2025. We've got people coming from America, so we've got he's got Drago Reed coming over, Brad Olson coming over, Randy Kramer and Ida Farhat are coming over from America. I feel like it's meant to be one more. And then we've got UK, we've got Dr. Amir Jahangiri coming in, we've got Tina Bird, Maria Wheatley, there's loads, and there are some European as well, Miriam Yance and Thomas Mikey Jensen. So there's a really great lineup on this conference that Miles is organising. So I'm going to be supporting the conference. So I'm not going to be speaking at the conference, but if there's an opportunity to speak on SSP panel with Drago, then I might get to do that, which is really cool. But otherwise, generally, I'm just going to be there supporting the conference. So I'm really, really excited because I love event organising, and it's being set up to be like a TV production studio. So I'm super excited about that, to get that kind of experience in that environment. So anyway, yeah, so please do check out the videos at the Basis Project with Miles Johnston, and check out my website. So thank you so much for watching my video. Sorry if this has gone on a bit long, because I did initially start off this series by doing short videos because I was talking about my personal healing, but now I really think it's important because a lot of the work I do is with beginners or refreshers who are coming back to their mystical wellness pathway, but since my work has gone a bit more galactic, I think it's really important to try and get this information out there. Even though you can see that I'm getting targeting as I do this, and my eyes are getting smaller and smaller and smaller right now because of the pressures coming in on my head, but these are important topics, so I hope this has been some benefit. Please do like, comment and share this video. Please subscribe to my channel. David Purcell is going to be setting up his channel very soon as well, so I'm supporting David with that, but we're currently podcasting together on this channel, so please do check out those videos because they're really, really good and they're really, really fun. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for supporting my work, and I'll speak to you soon.